Welcome to $120,000 Bitcoin. Congrats. So the question, of course, everyone always has, is now a good time to buy Bitcoin? Well, a couple thoughts. One, it's never a bad time to buy Bitcoin. In the long term, Bitcoin outperforms everything else. So it's never a bad time to buy Bitcoin. That being said, a lot of people have an emotionally hard time buying an investment and then having it go down in value for any period of time, even if it then quickly goes back up in value. So what I recommend now that Bitcoin's above $120,000 is just set up a what's called dollar cost averaging, DCA. If you want to learn about it, ask Google, ask ChatGPT. It's a very common strategy in investing. It's called dollar cost averaging, DCA. And what that means is you set up a weekly recurring buy of the same amount for every week. Maybe that's $5 a week, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 1,000. Maybe if you have a substantial amount of money you're trying to invest in Bitcoin, it's 10,000 a week. That's the highest I've ever heard someone dollar cost averaging was one person was dollar cost averaging $10,000 a week. So good for them. But it's really whatever you can afford. Also, it's always a good time to invest retirement funds in Bitcoin because retirement funds are a lot easier to just set it and forget it, meaning you buy it and it's just, you're not going to worry about it. So if you have retirement funds to invest in Bitcoin, I would recommend for retirement funds, lump sum investing, which is just, if you have a set amount, go ahead and buy Bitcoin with it and forget about it for 10 or 20 years or however long until you retire. Because again, for retirement funds, it just doesn't matter if you buy Bitcoin at 121,000 or 18,000 or 111,000. None of that stuff matters in the long term when it's, more than $1 million a coin 10 years from now, or hopefully a lot more than that beyond that. None of that matters. So if you're investing retirement funds, I would just put in however much you can as soon as possible. If you're investing non-retirement funds, meaning money that you're going to be painfully watching go up and down every day, every week, then I would dollar cost average, which is I would buy as much as you can afford to buy every week, and just put on River. You can set it up with a recurring buy, and you don't pay any fees after the first week. So I would just set it up for however much you can afford, and then just let it run on autopilot indefinitely. That is the easiest way to not stress out about the price of Bitcoin, because if the price is lower, you're like, "Ooh, I'm getting Bitcoin on sale this week." If the price is higher, then you feel good because all of your Bitcoin is up. So dollar cost averaging is just a very good way. With Bitcoin now above $120,000 per coin, dollar cost averaging is a great way to not stress about investing in Bitcoin. Just put it on autopilot for as much as you can afford for, just set it up indefinitely. And on River, which is river.com, which I recommend, and I can send you free Bitcoin on River if you don't have any. Just set it up on a recurring buy. They call it a recurring buy, which is their term for dollar cost averaging. So anyway, just set it up on a recurring buy. And one second here, I've got the wrong place plugged into my GPS. Um, and there's a bunch of road work that's making it ambiguous what I'm allowed to do here. Um, anyway, so anyway, set up a recurring buy on River for as much as you can afford for as long as you can afford it. Again, nothing I ever say is not tax, nothing I ever say is tax advice or financial advice or accounting advice or legal advice. So none of this is professional advice. This is just what I recommend people do as a random friend who's trying to help people. So, but anyway, I think above $120,000 per coin, the easiest thing is just to set up a recurring buy on River and let it run for as long as you can, for as high a level as you possibly can. And if you have a substantial amount of non-retirement funds that you really want to invest in Bitcoin as soon as possible, you could certainly take half of those funds and invest them now in Bitcoin, and then put the rest of it on sort of a recurring buy, where over some frame you'll have as much as you want to invest. The only reason I'm not saying for non-retirement funds to just dump it all in and don't worry about it right now is, anytime Bitcoin runs as fast as it has between 111,000 up to 121, often it's going to go revisit some of those prices at some point in the future. And people just get stressed out when it does. So if they buy Bitcoin at 121 and then suddenly it's 117 and it's 115 and it's 112, they stress out. they get the urge to panic sell the Bitcoin they bought, which they should not do. In the long term, again, it's a good investment regardless, but a lot of people just don't want that stress of buying at 121 with a lump sum. Sorry, drove through a dead spot. So a lot of people don't want the stress of, of putting everything they can afford into Bitcoin all in one lump sum above $120,000. And then they get all stressed out if it temporarily trades below $120,000. So you can avoid that by setting up a recurring buy and just buying the same amount every week. $100, $1,000, $500, $5, whatever you can afford every week. Set it on autopilot, forget about it, and accumulate Bitcoin that way. And again, if you have retirement funds that you can put in Bitcoin, I recommend Fidelity. Fidelity has something called a Fidelity crypto account, and you can set up a Fidelity crypto account. You can move a Roth IRA. You can set it up with Fidelity Crypto for a Roth IRA, a standard IRA, or a rollover IRA. And if you have an old 401k that's not with your current employer, you can roll that into that old 401k into a rollover IRA with Fidelity Crypto and invest that in Bitcoin. So Fidelity Crypto, the Fidelity Crypto accounts are the best way to invest retirement funds in Bitcoin. And if you're investing retirement funds in Bitcoin, I would just dump in as much as you can, leave it as long as possible, and not worry about it. I don't see a downside of buying Bitcoin at 120 plus $1,000 with retirement funds because again, those are long-term funds and people tend to not stress about them the same way they do on non-retirement funds. So just to recap, if you have non-retirement funds you're investing in Bitcoin, the easiest way to do that is to dollar cost average by buying the same amount every week. If you have retirement funds, then I would recommend just dumping in whatever you feel good about in Bitcoin and just forgetting about it. Anyway, hope all that helps. Exciting.